Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 14th, and right now we are looking at the Himawari satellite, the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see Japan here. Here's Russia up here. There's China over here. What we're looking at is this polar lobe out here across the Asian continent. This is the very beginning. It's organization of the jet stream that is expected to move all the way across the Pacific Ocean and eventually bring troughing to the Pacific Northwest with the pattern change. So you want to know where the pattern change is coming from? This is the beginning stages of it out here. So we'll continue to monitor that over the next several days. You can see it's still pretty far out there, so you got to be careful with these forecasts at this point. There's a lot of chatter about the pattern change coming up, but it's never a guarantee, especially at that range. Now, taking a look here, a little bit closer to home, of course, visible satellite imagery, you can see the forest fire activity across much of western Washington, or the smoke at least, moving across a lot of western Washington, some stratus moving down the Washington coast. Cedar Creek fire continues to pump out a bunch of smoke. I feel sorry for people who are living just downstream from this forest fire smoke. Hopefully this weekend we can get some relief in these forest fires. But right now, we're going to be dealing with the potential of even having more forest fires start, relative low humidity, some offshore flow is going to exist. And to be frank, we're going to have some pretty bad air quality through the weekend here across western Washington. And depending on your location, some of this smoke is really going to be moving out the Puget Sound in large amounts here. And I'll show you that here in a moment. Here's SeaTac, hit the record high, tied it yesterday, 75 degrees. And this one's going down on the 16th, 72. We're probably going to be upper 70s towards 80 degrees. That would be the latest 80-degree day ever at SeaTac. That was way back in 1961, as you can see there. Portland, another daily record high. That's 4 for this month there. There may be another one to fall here as we come through this weekend as well. So very warm. October for Portland continues also. Fire weather watch, 1,500 feet or higher, west slopes of the Cascades, low relative humidities, offshore flow. We could even start some more fires here, and it's going to be favorable for fires to spread that are ongoing here. So heads up for that. You can see the air quality alert includes all of western Washington as well. Now taking a look at the HER 3KM, this is 12Z, it goes out 48 hours. And notice as we go through the afternoon today, look at this smoke just going to envelop the Puget Sound as we go through this evening and through tonight here across the region. Just an ugly situation here. And the good thing is maybe it'll move around and hit different areas, but then you can see it fire up again here Saturday afternoon and really move up towards southwest BC, and some of the Puget Sound is really going to get a lot of smoke through this weekend coming up here. So sorry about that, everybody. Now let's take a look at the long range a little bit here. Here's the European ensemble mean on the left, the GFS ensemble on the right. Put this into motion. You can see the ridge maintaining over us and then kind of kicking off to the east here a bit. So as we go a little bit further into this week, you can see that ridge break down. The GFS is slower with the ridge breaking down here on the right, as you can see. Flattens out quickly on the European. And then we go on in through Friday night, and you can clearly see the troughing all the way down the west coast of North America there, with the ridge trying to hold on a bit here, but you can see the troughing on its way to here Friday night on the GFS ensemble. Troughing on the GFS shown here, but more developed here on the European as we go through Saturday morning now. And here we are by Sunday morning. You can see the trough open over the west coast of North America here. And you can see the similar troughing here on the GFS. So good agreement here with the pattern change as we come through this weekend here, but the European with more dynamic troughing here on the left. Now taking a look at the Canadian, let's see what the Canadian has to say here. Ridge maintaining itself over us this weekend, kicking off to the east here through early next week. We were hoping for a weak system, but it's just not going to bring much precipitation here for the Pacific Northwest. Ridge tries to rebuild for a bit, but then you can see that next polar lobe coming across, steered by this jet stream across Pacific Ocean here, opening up the troughing here as we go through next weekend on the Canadian as well. So good model agreement. The only problem is we're still 8-9 days out with this system coming up here. So we have to be careful here. Things can still change. Now checking out this European deterministic run, this is kind of showing precipitation here. You can see south shores of Alaska and southeast Alaska just continue to be bombarded with precipitation, while the Pacific Northwest just gets relatively nothing. You can see this weak system move through Monday and try to approach the Washington coast, maybe bring some precip to northern portions of Vancouver Island, West BC through Monday. Still not much help precipitation-wise for the forest fires a bit inland across the Cascades. And then you can see the system kind of slide down here. And here's that mark of the first weak front that would go through Thursday night. And then a stronger front would come through Friday night on yesterday's European run, would bring some mountain snows and some much needed precipitation to the higher elevation here, as much colder air would arrive in this scenario here. And then you can see a system even developing on the backside of that coming in through here. Classic developmental stage going across the Gulf of Alaska here. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, we're pretty far out at this point. But there's decent model agreement for a pattern change coming next weekend still. Now this is 300 millibars, 30,000 feet up in the atmosphere. This is that polar lobe we looked at on that mid-level water vapor loop over Russia. This is where it is currently. And now you can see it move across the area. Strong jet stream moves off the coast just south of the Aleutian Islands here towards the Pacific Northwest, and you can see the troughing near BC, Washington, Oregon. Here's Hawaii and Alaska. You can see that troughing opening up across the Pacific Northwest. But again, we're pretty far out at this point, so we'll continue just to watch it here, but the signal is good for a pattern change coming up. This is 10,000 feet. You can see that polar lobe over Russia here, extending down towards Mongolia. That's the one we're watching here, and you can see it swing around, come off the shore of Asia, south of the Aleutians. This polar lobe moves down into the Pacific Northwest. Much colder air arriving. Look at the ridge now. Warm air across the region here. Back up a little bit more and you can really see that warm air aloft above us. And then you see that polar lobe just bring that cold air down, and that would be the pattern change we are looking for coming up here. So keep our eye out on that one as we go day by day here. Here's the 16th. Look at the European deterministic calling for 82 at Seattle. The record high is 72, so we're going to smash that, potentially set the latest 80-degree temperature ever at SeaTac coming up here. And then you can see the pattern change coming next week here that you're going to see in the other, not ensemble, but deterministic temperatures here. You can see Vancouver cool down quite a bit here. As that ridge kicks off to the east, we're not going to be that warm as we go through this week. As you can see here, some of these highs, maybe just around 60 for Vancouver. Much different than what we've been having here, but a warm day coming up here on Sunday for Vancouver as well. Spokane coming up here. Look at the pattern change coming through the extended potentially, as you can see there. Portland International, a little bit of a cool down after Sunday here as we get a weak system near the area, but then the potential pattern change in the extended. This is precipitation. Look at the control even for Portland. The European has some precipitation values up towards 4 inches. The mean is over 2, so this would be very beneficial. There would be more that would fall in the mountains, quite a bit more actually. So this is very nice to see. Here's Seattle Tacoma, the control calling for over 4 inches. The mean is over 2 as we get towards later October. You can see the start of this precipitation as we come through Friday night with a weak system initially, then a bit of a stronger system after that. At least what current model runs are saying. Here's Stevens Pass, close to the Bolt Creek fire. The mean is over 3 inches. If we're lucky, maybe we can just put an end to that Bolt Creek fire here by the end of October towards Halloween. The control up towards 5 inches. So right now things are looking fairly decent, but we got to be careful. Like I said, it's far out there, subject to change. Mount Baker, look at the control run, over 40 inches of snow by the end of October. That would set a nice base down there for the ski area, but the mean is a much less down into the lower 20s. But you can see a few of these ensembles don't have anything, so there's always subject to change here coming up. This is Siskiyou Summit all the way down south towards the California-Oregon border there in southern Oregon. Even showing a little bit of measurable snow has the potential down there if that system comes in cold enough and drops down far enough south. Here's Mount Baker ski area on the GFS. You can see a few ensembles do not have anything, but the control generally over 7 inches there by the end of October, and just something nice to see, kind of highlighting the timing of this pattern change. Now here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. You can see Western Washington, Oregon, portion of Southwest BC do not have that signal for above average temperatures. We go through, starting to get into later October here. You can see the bullseye here across Western Washington down through Oregon, Northern California here for 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. But again, California at this time of year is not getting a lot of precipitation, so this wouldn't take much to put them above average. So I wouldn't get too excited about a whole bunch of rain for California just yet. Just showing the fires out here. What is this? The Nakia Creek fire is now going on out here. You can see the Bolt Creek, Minnow Ridge, and I think the White River fire is there. Yes, it is. And you can see, of course, the Cedar Creek fire. It seems like it's been going on forever now. This is ventilation index. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. And I'll go on into Saturday and Sunday morning. You can see this poor ventilation. So whatever smoke comes around is really not going to be stirred around too much. So we don't have the winds to really move this around. Now we'll go into next This is Monday night here. Look at this, just poor ventilation across the region here, and it really doesn't get that much better through Tuesday. It's still pretty poor here, and you can see as we go through Tuesday night, again, pretty poor. So not a lot of winds to stir this up until that potential weak front later on in through maybe Friday or Saturday of next week here. So yeah, not great looking here as far as forest fire smoke is, as long as that's considered. Now looking here a little bit further out into Saturday, look at some of the west slopes of the Cascades here. Have some pretty good fire conditions for fire starts all the way down towards Portland, the Cascades, Mount Hood down there, South Washington, Cascades as well. This is the hot, dry, windy index here. So we have the potential for actual fire starts. And of course, this is not going to be beneficial to any fires going on at this time. They can spread under these conditions, especially when you start getting these brisk offshore winds with dry conditions blowing through the Bolt Creek fire. It's probably going to help fire that fire up. Now taking a look here, this is trajectories here. I believe this is for, Bolt Creek fire here. So this is a high resolution model here. And as we go on into tonight here, you can see this just dragging the smoke from the Bolt Creek fire right across Seattle here tonight. You can see it moving it across Everett tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. So this is the trajectory of the Bolt Creek fire here. This would be tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, Sunday morning. You get the picture. This is going to be moving off to the west here. So just a kind of a cool little model there from the University of Washington. They do the same thing for the Cedar Creek fire here. You can see a lot of this smoke was going to be moving over the Willamette Valley in southwest Oregon too. So nice models there from the UW. Now this is what we call the Pacific North American Oscillation here. This is the ensemble mean of the European. You can see where we're dealing with now, this ridging and Pacific North American positive signal going on here through midweek, but you can see the pattern changes. We go to negative. I'm going to show you in a minute what this means, but you can see the clear pattern change showing up in the ensembles here of the European. Check out the GFS, does show the pattern change, not quite as bullish. The mean only just barely dips down into negative territory, but still we would be getting much more seasonable weather at this point. As you can see, we go from these high positive values down towards zero. Now this is the Canadian. It does show that as well, moving into negative territory as we go through next weekend also. So again, Pacific North American Oscillation here. This is the European deterministic here. Again, you can see this coming in through Friday night here for the next weekend, the pattern change coming. The GFS deterministic kind of shows that as well coming up here through next weekend. So good there on the potential pattern signal change. This is positive here. The troughing out over the Aleutians here and the ridging over us is what we've been dealing with. And that's what we saw is going on right now, right? And so this is this is the Pacific North American Oscillation when it's in negative territory. You see the troughing over us. So that's what that signal is that we saw those charts diving into negative territory. Hopefully that troughing will open up over the Pacific Northwest. Now taking a look here before we wrap things up, I just wanted to show you guys the current sea surface temperature anomalies. La Nina plainly in charge here across Pacific Ocean. You can really see some cold water that kind of upwelled along the South American coast and the Galapagos Islands out there. Check out the really warm water off of Japan out here and across the Northwest Pacific Ocean here. Still some pretty warm water off our shoreline, but not quite the blob that we dealt with a few years ago. But just like to show this diagram here, kind of showing you that La Nina is fully in charge. So anyway, thanks you guys for signing up. The memberships are looking good. You guys make this channel possible. Please continue to show your friends. Click like and subscribe. Let's get the word out about the channel. We'll get more people in here. And leave some more comments. Let me know what else you'd like to see. And we'll continue to do this day by day. Cross your fingers for that pattern change. And watch out for this forest fire smoke coming up Saturday and Sunday. It is going to be nasty in some areas across the Puget Sound, Willamette Valley, and Southwest BC. So have heads up for that. I mean, you might even want to consider getting a hotel somewhere else to try to get away from the smoke if you're being affected negatively by this forest fire smoke. I know it's kind of nasty going out there and it smells like a campfire nonstop out there. So it's going to be pretty bad this weekend. So anyway, thanks for watching, you guys, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and we'll do this again. Cross your fingers for that pattern change.